There is no such thing as future. It's imagination, that's all it is. People hang on to it, it's true, but it's not real. The past is just remembering, and that's not real. And the future is just a projection, that's not real. What's real is right now. Welcome to satsang. Yes, Tosh.
What are the common traps on the path to enlightenment?
Most people fall into the same trap, and the trap is the collection of knowledge. No amount of knowledge ever raised anyone's consciousness levels. No amount of knowledge ever healed the wound of the heart. And no amount of knowledge ever took away defense systems and resistance to life. Unfortunately, because we all went to school and we were trained to collect knowledge so we could repeat it and pass exams, people try using this methodology for higher consciousness, and it simply does not work. What works is witnessing the mind and seeing how the mind works, how it operates, and removing anything that's in the way. Any obstacle that's in the way of heart, any obstacle that's in the way of truth. That's what works. The whole idea that collecting knowledge works is a fallacy. No way does it work. Yet this is where most seekers fail. They collect knowledge by listening to this teacher, that teacher, reading this book on spirituality, another book on spirituality, getting conflicting understandings and ideas, but at the same time collecting knowledge. In, I think it was 1988, I went to Murdoch University because I wanted to find out what the essence was of all spiritual teachers. What was their bottom line? What were they selling? And at that time, I was still collecting knowledge to some degree. So I went to Murdoch University and I went and read all the old masters, see what they had to say. And they all have different methodologies and different understandings, but the bottom line was always the same bottom line, whether they were Christians or Muslims or Hindus or Buddhists or Sufis or whatever. And the bottom line is unconditional surrender. If you can learn unconditional surrender, which is a non-doing, it is learnt through the practice of acceptance and let go, you have learnt all you need to learn to support higher consciousness towards enlightenment and to support heart. And that is that.
Did you fall into this trap as a seeker?
I already stated that I did.
How did you get out?
Well, my spiritual master, Osho, talked about this particular trap quite a lot, but being as thick as I was, I didn't hear him. We don't tend to hear that we don't want to hear. We blind ourselves to what we don't want to see. And for some reason I had blinded myself for a lot of years to his teachings about the collection of knowledge being a fallacy. But it dawned on me that he was right. It dawned on me when I found truth, because I started having satori's in 1987, and I found truth as self. I found myself as the totality of the universe, and no amount of knowledge supported that. It was an accident that occurred while self-inquiring, and no amount of knowledge helped. Only my ability to surrender unconditionally helped. Nothing else. And unconditional surrender is a non-doing, so the ego can't do that. The ego can practice let go, it can practice acceptance. That's all it can do. It can remove the obstacles that are in the way that stop a successful let go, that stop a successful acceptance. But no amount of knowledge helps.
So we are programmed and educated to be knowledge collectors.
Yeah, that's what we're programmed to do. It's our schooling. Once again, I already stated that.
So how did you actually undo that program inside yourself?
No, instead of collecting knowledge, instead of reading all these other teachers, all these awakened people, I started practicing what they were talking about. I made openness a practice that I practiced all day long, all the time. Anytime I found myself contracted, I'd look at, well, why was I contracted? Why was I in resistance? What belief systems were supporting that? And I'd undo the belief systems. I also practice present moment awareness, which is meditation. I also practice self-inquiry, which takes you into beingness. But the thing that helped with doing the work on the mind was the practice of openness. Because if you have defense systems, you are closed. All defense systems are in the way of higher consciousness. And so I started undoing everything so I could be in the world in a way that was vulnerable and open. And this is what supports the perception of love. Because I was hell-bent on finding love, because I realized that it was the only thing that was valuable on this plane, and everything else was a con.
Why is knowledge so in the way of higher consciousness and truth?
I've met a lot of university professors over the years, and most of them don't have higher consciousness, and they are absolutely chock-a-block full of knowledge. Higher consciousness is gained by seeing through the mind and undoing all of the things that keep you locked in lower consciousness. And from what I can tell, the best way to do that is by witnessing the mind from developing a silent witness that witnesses the mind without judgment. And that takes practice, a lot of practice. And from that, you get detachment from the mind, so you don't get caught in the stories of the mind, and you get to see what the tricky little thing's up to.
So the insights that come through meditation and witnessing the mind, are these insights also classified as knowledge?
Yeah, insight is an invitation to do the work. It is not the work. And this is where a lot of people make a mistake also, particularly those people who take drugs to get insights. They think that the insight they gain is the answer. It is the invitation to do the work. That's all it is. It's an invitation. So you see something that's not working in yourself, and then you actually have to change it. And we change the modelling of the mind, the default patterns, through repetition. Insight alone is not enough. It's a booby prize, the same as the collection of knowledge is a booby prize. Because then the insight just becomes another piece of knowledge that's been collected. If you have an insight as to what's in the way, then you have to remove what's in the way. That's the work. And that takes a fair bit of doing.
I have one more question. A lot of the people that get involved in spirituality are interested in relaxation, finding inner peace. Does that go hand in hand with raising your consciousness?
the chasing of inner peace is people trying to escape feeling something. And so escapists don't make it into higher consciousness because the escapism itself keeps you locked in lower consciousness. People who make it into higher consciousness are willing to feel whatever's there, to be with whatever appears. They're not chasing inner peace to get away from what's there. Because what's there is probably repressed emotionality, wounding. And unless we're willing to feel that, we can't heal it. So the chasing of inner peace is usually people trying to get away from what's inside of themselves that they find unpleasant. Once all that is cleared, once awareness becomes aware of itself, which is enlightenment, you find that one of the qualities of yourself, without you as an I, is peace. Another quality is silence. Another quality is stillness. But these are not qualities of the mind. Not really. These are qualities that the mind perceives when awareness is aware of itself continually, which is enlightenment.
So peace is beyond the mind?
It's not a bad idea to have a look at what peace is and why you want it. Because if you are hell-bent on peace, you'll do everything to avoid healing the wounds of your heart, because that is not peaceful. Thank you. Are there any questions? Any statements? Any challenges about anything that's been spoken about tonight? Hello?
What you were just speaking about, trying to find peace, is interesting because I notice when I practice meditation, often my goal is to find a relaxed space or a peaceful space, I have an expectation, I guess, or an intention.
Yep.
When you practiced form meditation, did you not have that?
Not at all. I just practiced the meditation. And my meditation was watching the breath. I didn't have a goal, I just watched the breath.
And then whatever arose in meditation, was your practice just acceptance and that was it?
Whatever arose in meditation I found no mind. Nothing arose. I'd been practicing being present since I was a little boy. For me, being present to reality, or what they call meditation, was very easy. Anything else? Hello?
I teach meditation, and most of the people that come, they don't experience the no mind that you were talking about just then. They find a lot of mind, or sleepiness, or agitation. So what do you recommend if in practicing meditation that comes up?
Okay, so quite often people get into meditating because they're trying to escape something. They're trying to find peace. And the thing about meditation and staying still is anything that's inside of you that hasn't been dealt with will start to come to the surface. And so they sit and they watch their breath and all this stuff comes to the surface. And they think, well, I'm failing at meditation because I'm feeling terrible. I'm not finding peace. I'm finding all this noisy stuff and this pain coming up. That's because they're trying to escape what is. This is why Osho created two meditations, Kundalini meditation and dynamic meditation, which involve catharsis, to let out some of the stuff that's inside of people before they actually try sitting. So they could find something in meditation. To just come into meditation and think that you're going to find peace when you're probably full of repressed emotions is stupidity. You start being still and everything will come up. The reason people can't be still is because they're avoiding something inside themselves. They're on the run. You best become willing to heal the wounds of your heart, and then in that warm welcoming of whatever appears, you can empty the house, empty the vehicle of everything you've repressed, and then you can start finding peace. Because there's nothing coming up anymore to disturb you. But unless you've done that work, just meditating is probably going to agitate the hell out of you.
If I tell people that, they're not going to want to meditate.
Well, you could actually, if you're teaching meditation, you could have them do something cathartic before they try sitting, and that way they'll let out some of the energy that's going to disturb them when they do try sitting. I mean, one of the main ways that people avoid the stuff that comes up inside of them is dualism, constantly doing things, whether it's washing dishes, ironing clothes, vacuuming floors, working in the garden, anything but be still, because they're actually full of pain. Because we live in a society of people who repress. They don't express, they repress. And all that repressed stuff is still in there. And when you start to slow down, coming into a meditation class, it starts to come up. And you just go, this isn't working. Well, of course it's not working, because you came into the class to run away from this stuff, and here it is. Anything else? Hello.
Hello. So what you're saying is that at any time I sit down to meditate looking for peace, I'm really in escape mode.
You'll have to look inside yourself, watch your own mind and see if that's true. I don't know. I would say yes, but I don't know. You have a look and see. I started healing the wounds of my heart when I was very young, and when I was with Osho, I did years and years of dynamic meditation and years of Kundalini meditation, which is basically a catharsis and then a quietness. Letting everything out and then being quiet. And that worked. This idea that if you're going to sit and meditate and find peace, and you haven't done anything about healing the wounds of your heart, this is ridiculous. It isn't going to work. Because whatever's down there, as soon as you become still, is going to start percolating to the surface.
Yes, that's my experience. A lot of tears coming for me as I go still.
Yeah. I did this wonderful 3-week meditation group which involved 7 days of laughing for 3 hours, 7 days of crying for 3 hours every day, and 7 hours of sitting silent. And it was so wonderful to do this particular group because everything came up in the first 2 weeks. And I continued it, the 3 hours of sitting silently, for the next 5 months. Because I could find that peace that people look for, because it's always there. You just have to be clean to feel it. You can't be full of repressed emotions. Yeah?
I have a question about openness.
Has that got anything to do with what I just said? Or are you changing the track of the conversation?
Maybe I'm changing it.
It sounds like it. You need to get out of your head and become real. This whole game of what they call spirituality is really about reality. And nothing you think is real. Everything else is real, but nothing you think is real. If you were tuned in, you would have experienced something very different talking to me. But you were tuned into your own mind. You were preparing the next question while I was talking. This is not the way to be with someone who's awake. When I was with my awake teachers, I let everything go. I let every thought go. I was just with them. I might come up with a question to talk to them, but then bang, gone, 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 because I would let go in their presence. And it was so beautiful to let go in their presence. Constantly living in your head, thinking, from my perspective, is an ugly way to live. Yet we're all programmed to live that way, because we all went to school for about 12 years, if not a lot more years, and we learnt to live in our heads. The practice of meditation really is designed to help you reclaim reality from the dream that you've been lost in for years. Hello?
Talking about this topic of getting people to
So your mind's just disappeared, so why don't you just let it go?
yes.
Stop struggling to find it again. Let it go. Okay. Hello? Always the same. How are you? Are you sure? Are you sure you're good? Did you really look when I asked you? It's very dangerous playing games with people who are awake. What was your question?
I want to ask about how can we overcome our confusions and can we can we bring a clarity in our actions, our thoughts, our decisions, our relationships?
How about not procrastinating? How about making a decision? See, what people do is they live in their heads tossing things around constantly. It's called procrastination. And then they wonder why they have no clarity and they make mistakes. You've clouded your own head through overthinking. You have something you want to do, make a plan, and then wait for the time to come and then do it. Don't think about it. People who procrastinate, people who live in their heads, don't have clarity. They have a mess that they've created with their overthinking. How's that for an answer? Confusion is brought about by procrastination, overthinking. Two opposing thoughts. Anything else?
There's another question.
Yeah, okay.
So as I started coming here, I was also thinking to join a mixed martial arts classes.
You think while you're in a mixed martial arts class, you get you get beaten pretty quickly if you're fighting anyone who's any good.
No, I was telling my mate about this, and he was like, "Man, you're going into different directions, and you should choose between two. Like either you should go on the path."
Well, if you don't choose quickly, you're going to get hit. See, I did martial arts for 14 years, and if I could get another person thinking, I'd already won the bout, because they were dreaming and I was not. Martial arts is about being totally present to whatever is in front of you, and what's behind you, and what's beside you. If you're thinking, you've already been defeated. If you're up against anyone who has any talent whatsoever, you've already been defeated. Because you're living in your head, you're living in a dream, not in the reality of what's in front of you. That gives you a terrible handicap in the game of martial arts. Anything else? Hello?
Vishrant, can mystic roles,
Sorry, I can't hear you.
can mystic roles be done by yourself, or should it be done in groups?
So you recognise the meditation technique that I did called the Mystic Rose. Yes or no? Okay. I can't see you. You need to move to where I can see you. Thank you. Hello, Connor. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me, Vishrant?
Yeah, I can.
How are you? Same as you always are.
Pretty much.
I've been trying to my best to remain in the mind to ask you these questions, because the Satori's are beautiful, but they don't last, and they crash, and sometimes they crash and they burn because of belief systems that are still in place from way back when I got ill before. I just have questions around belief systems and how to break them down and how to change them when they have felt so strong and so real.
Go ahead,
The
Connor.
questions I have.
Yep.
I wanted to ask about what's your thoughts on the difference between, there's an idea of downloading information versus thinking yourself. By thinking to yourself and then downloading information that's just coming to you. There's also, I think, the download.
If you don't let, Connor, if you don't let me answer when you've asked me a question, I'll actually dismiss you from the meeting. Okay? You ask me a question, I will answer it, but I'm not interested in you continuing to talk after you've asked a question. I don't live by thinking. I haven't lived by thinking for over 24 years. Everything is inner knowing, which is what I think you're referring to as downloading to some degree. Inner knowing doesn't use words though, it just knows which way to go, and things just come out of the nothingness. It's like being in touch with the 𝐬𝐞𝐥𝐟 records, and the 𝐬𝐞𝐥𝐟 records open up to you when the third eye opens. And the 𝐬𝐞𝐥𝐟 records opened up for me in 1987 when I started having Satori's like you're having. And there was a lot of information coming in that was very interesting, but it was keeping me stuck in my head watching it. So I started to dismiss it because I didn't want to be stuck in my head. And so I started to dismiss it, and it stopped coming after a while. But I do know what you're talking about. It can be a problem. You're better off coming back to what is real. And so I did a lot of what I'd call walking meditation, which I called walking in Zen. Watching my breath, watching my footfalls, feeling the sun if it was on me, or the wind if it was on me, watching what was around me, and avoiding my mind by having awareness in so many places that were real. The downloading stopped because I actually wasn't interested in it coming. I was more interested in reality. I lost interest in dreams so long ago it's not funny. It's where people hurt themselves.
Yeah, and it's just unfortunately, with my past, what I've done in the past is I've hurt people around me through getting ill, and those people love me so deeply still. And when they see me bliss, and laughing to myself, with no mind, just feeling like I'm enjoying the moment, they see me as he's not well, and unfortunately, a big fear energy gets drawn into my presence, and it's a beautiful battle between my thoughts and my old belief systems, and it all comes in very hard. So I feel like I have a particularly interesting journey ahead of me with this.
Yeah, I don't have an interest in other people's opinions of me. That's their business, not mine. My business is my business. What other people think of me is none of my business. Whether people like me, that's okay. If they don't like me, that's okay. If they think that I'm off, that's okay. If they think I'm right, that's okay. I have no interest in other people's opinions. I'm not looking for anyone's acceptance whatsoever, and I haven't been since I've been a little boy.
The funny thing is, I feel like I got that answer from you already last night when I went into a quiet place in myself and I asked you, what should I do here? And it felt like a very similar answer to not get so wrapped up in other people's opinions and views, and not feel like you have to forget about them, but just drop your eye and you can be there with them. So I really appreciate that. I just feel like I wanted
Once you start witnessing your own mind, you realise how crazy it is anyway. And you also realise that everybody else's mind is pretty crazy also, with a whole pile of belief systems that aren't real. And so why do you bother even listening? The only people I'd listen to were people who were way further ahead than me, and I had mentors all the way up to 45. People who were further ahead who I would listen to. I wouldn't listen to my peers. I wouldn't listen to my equals. They were just as lost as I was. Only people who were way ahead of me. And so when I ran out of people in Australia, I started going overseas to look for them. Anything else, Connor?
I had other questions, but I'm done. Thank you.
Thanks, Connor. Hello.
Vishrant, you asked me a question about mystic rose. I could not understand, sorry. Can you repeat that?
Well, you started talking about the mystic rose, but the people online and some of the people here wouldn't know what you're talking about. I didn't name the meditation type I was doing, which was the mystic rose. Anything else?
Should I ask this question or not? Because other people don't know about mystic rose.
I have no idea. Ask it and see.
Mystic rose meditation that you did, 3 weeks meditation. So, can it be done just by yourself?
Oh, it can be done by yourself. It's better done in a group. Then you've got support in what you're doing, because everybody else is laughing for 3 hours, and everybody else is crying for 3 hours, and everybody else is silent for 3 hours. It gives you a little bit of encouragement. It's relatively difficult to do unless you got encouragement, someone else cracking up in front of you or someone else crying their eyes out. Crying was the hard part for me. Laughing was easy. All I had to do was look at other people. Anything else?
Yeah, I did this meditation as well in Nepal. Laughing part here, it was a bit easier.
Yeah. Yeah, Mystic Rose group, because it's really a group, is a very powerful technique, Osho technique. Anything else? Okay. Zorba. Connie, you need to take your hand down. Thank you.
Hello, Vishrant.
Hello, Zorba.
Hello, sir. I don't have a question. I just wanted to see.
Just wanted to say hello?
Yes, yeah, I wanted to see you and say hello, yes.
Hello, Zorba. Nice to see you.
Hello. Nice to see you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Zorba. Hello, Rajesh.
Hi, Vishrant.
Hello.
The orange wall I mentioned that I have in the other room, it's now white, and the space has a different feel to it.
Right. What, did you paint it white?
Why did I paint it white?
No, I said, did you paint it white?
No, I hired a painter and he did it.
Right.
It would take me way longer than it did him, and one of the reasons. So while that was going on, I was thinking about material possessions or displays and how attached I am to them. How did you give up if you had any attachment to your possessions?
I don't think I've ever been that attached to anything. I've been looking at that going back through memory, and I don't think I was ever very attached to things. When I was a kid, quite often my punishment, and I was a bad kid, well, I was naughty. My punishment was having things taken off me. And that punishment really only works if you're attached to things. If you're not attached to things, that punishment doesn't work. The person giving you the punishment will still think it's working because they're probably attached to things. But I wasn't really, I found a way of not being attached to things. I expected to lose everything. And so I've never really been that attached to anything, whether it's been objects like cars or properties or money or people or lovers, anything. I just aren't that attached. More detached, if you like. All attachments are prisons. Anything you're attached to, you'll be frightened of losing. And so when it gets threatened, you go into fear, which is resistance to what is, and you suffer. And you create that suffering yourself through your resistance. And so I have never really had much interest in being attached to anything because I'm not into my own suffering. As your consciousness levels rise, you get to see it really, really clearly. Everything that you're attached to, even your life, is a prison. The attachment itself is a prison, and it causes suffering in you when it's threatened. Now, if you don't have the attachment, you don't get the suffering. And so I have things, but I'm not attached to them. If they get taken, well, so what? I'll get some more. Anything else?
Yeah, I'm starting to see that, or rather feel that. That it's a prison, the attachment?
Yeah, it's that and desires are the cause of dissatisfaction or suffering. Whatever we desire, if we desire it strongly enough, it causes suffering in us. Whatever we're attached to, if we're very frightened of losing it, well, that'll cause suffering in us. The two main causes of suffering in human beings are desires and attachments.
But in the past, I tried to deal with this by selling a lot of my things. And how can I let go of the attachment and not the thing itself? Is it possible?
You know, it comes to surrender and acceptance again. And so I started practicing letting things go when I was pretty young, because that was one of the ways I was punished, by actually having things taken off me. And so I didn't really get very attached to anything, because there was always the potential that it was going to get taken off me. Once my parents worked out that that was the case, they tried different forms of punishment. The next form was to get me to do chores around the house on a Saturday or after school, you know, during my playtime. But I worked out a way around that. I just got all my friends to do my jobs for me, which made my parents really cross.
So basically practice, let go.
Yeah, if you practice let go, you get good at it. If you don't practice let go, you'll never get good at it, because it's actually human nature to get attached to things. It's human nature to desire things to be different than how they are. This is our nature. But if we practice something different than that, we can get good at it. And I practiced let go. I got very good at it. I don't see any point whatsoever in creating suffering in myself, and I haven't, and that's been my attitude since I've been a boy. What's the point in creating suffering in yourself? By resisting what is, by resisting life. What's the point? Doesn't change anything if you suffer. And my experience of life is everything gets taken off you anyway. It's just a matter of time. I never ever expected to live this long. I had a feeling I was going to die from a very young age. That's why I squeezed the juice out of life, because I didn't think I was going to be here for another 12 months at any time. It's also the reason I never put any money in the bank and kept it there. I didn't want to die with a heap of money in the bank. And so my life has been one great big party. Anything else?
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello. Because I've been a student of yours for such a long time, I've watched you and seen that you're not attached to anything. But I see you pretend to be attached to things all the time to teach your students, like, how to let go. Like, I notice you know, if someone damages something of yours, you appear to be quite attached or to the object or what they've done wrong. What's it like to not be attached at all, but be pretending to be attached to things all the time?
It's not the only thing that I pretend to be. 24 years ago, Vishrant died. The ego disappeared and awareness stayed aware of itself. And then for 6 months, Vishrant stared into space. Totally gone. And then a teacher came along that was one of Vishrant's teachers and said, "Hey, you got to come out, show people what you found." At that stage, Vishrant was so gone, there was no human left in him. And so he had to pretend to be a human again. And he's now been pretending to be a human for 24 years. There's nobody here, mate. This chair is empty. It's all a pretense. We are all beingness. Anything else?
Do you not think that acting so well to be human is actually a barrier to students seeing what's truly or not there?
I could pretend to be holy, if you like. A lot of gurus do. They pretend to be holy, and that has a certain smell to it that I don't like. If you come anywhere near me, you'll feel me. There's a presence here, because awareness is aware of itself 24 hours a day. That should be enough. I don't want to pretend to be holy, because I'm not. If anything, I'm nothing. Absolutely nothing, and nobody going nowhere.
I find, despite knowing what that presence feels like, I get drawn away from the presence by the act. How can I avoid that mistake?
When I was with my teachers, I was attracted to the presence, because a lot of what they were saying was rubbish. Teachers make up all sorts of stuff. It's the presence that makes a difference. In the presence of my teachers, I learned how to die. In the presence of the teachers, I used the clarity that I had to get to the top of the mountain and stay there. In the presence of my teachers, I found myself as truth and have been there ever since, without an I. It is the presence that makes a difference, not what someone who's awake says. The collection of knowledge is a total waste of time. Anything else? Hello?
Vishrant, I really love all these different roles that you act. It is so much fun to watch you doing all different actings. Sometimes you pretend to be like, there is so much kindness, like you pretend to ignore other people, but you are doing that out of love.
You can't meet me where I live and what I live as. So I come and I meet you where you live. You live in the world of I. I live in the world of silence and stillness. You can't meet me where I live as that. And so I come and meet you where you're at. And for me to do that, I have to pretend to be a somebody that I am not. Is there anything else, Rajesh? Okay. Abhaya, hello.
Hello, Vishrant. So probably a lot of people that you know get offended by things. How did you
Get what?
offended by things? Like,
Offended by things. You're not saying by me, I hope.
yeah, maybe by you.
So that's what you're saying. You're saying a lot of people that I know get offended by me. Is that what you're saying? Well, I'd hope so. I try pretty hard. You see, if you take offence to anything, that is where you haven't shown up inside of yourself with insight and love. Because you've gone into contraction and you've gone into defence. And that is an obstacle in the way of love and an obstacle in the way of truth. And so people who take offence are basically operating out of lower consciousness. They're not operating out of higher consciousness. Someone in higher consciousness doesn't take offence. They're not that unconscious. And so I'm trying to help people raise their consciousness levels by setting devices that show them where they're still stuck, which is exactly what my master Osho used to do. Same deal. And this particular methodology has been used by for thousands and thousands of years in India by different awake gurus. Devices. Anyone who takes offence needs to have a look at the belief systems involved in the offence that has been taken and undo that belief system so they can be free of it. Anything else, 𝐬𝐽𝐽?
Yeah, so when I when I get offended by something, uh, uh, uh,
Okay, 𝐬𝐽𝐽. Thank you, 𝐬𝐽𝐽. Jane, is it Jane? Jane, Janne, Jane. Yes. You have to unmute yourself, Jane. That's it.
There we go.
Yeah, hello.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see
I have
you.
a question for you.
Yes.
So it's about having many teachers. I've been with one master for a couple of years now, and I feel
Who's
a very strong pull.
Who's that? Yeah, who is it?
Muji.
Muji, yeah. He's kind of a Krishna teacher. He teaches the way of the heart through Advaita Vedanta.
That's true.
Yeah.
I started off reading Osho for a couple of years. There was nothing but Osho. And then life kind of took me here next to Muji. I wasn't planning my travel or anything. I just happened to find myself living next to his ashram. So then it kind of started with him from there. And now
So
that
you're
I've been...
You're in Portugal. Yeah, right.
And I saw your videos way before this, and I felt a strong pull to come and see you. But at that time, I wasn't ready to do that kind of move. It wasn't, the fire wasn't so strong. But at this point, I'll do anything, you know, it doesn't matter. So my question is that I feel a strong pull to come and sit with you. Is it just my mind playing tricks and seeing the grass greener on the other side?
No.
Does it have some truth?
You're being called. I was called the same way. I was a businessman when I was first called, and I had no interest in spirituality whatsoever. I was actually a Roman Catholic. And I went and did a group, an Osho group, and during the group, I felt this calling to go to Osho. It was just like a pull. And I took sannyas and I went. I didn't even think about it. I just didn't even consider it. I just went because I could feel I was being pulled. And I think this is what happens to seekers. They get pulled to where they can die. Because enlightenment is a death. The I doesn't make it to enlightenment. You start finding yourself as the space of everything, and the I disappears completely, and all you're left with is everything without an I. And so you're very welcome. But you are coming, Osho used to say, I'm not your dear old uncle, I'm your murderer. And people go, but it's true.
I feel it.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit like Osho in that I set devices and help people get undone by showing them where they're still caught. Because I see higher consciousness as an undoing process, a stripping down process, not a process of making you bigger, better and more powerful, but making you less than, humble. And that's a destructive process. So satsang is a destructive process. And so people come to me and I slowly strip them down. And if they can handle it, it's good. If they don't, they run away. But you know, what the heck? I do my best because anyone that comes is a seeker and I try to help them get free. And if you came here, I would try to help you get free.
Thank you. Thank you, Vishrant.
Where are you originally from?
Finland.
Ah, Finland, another Viking. Right. I have a fair collection of Vikings now. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Vikings are welcome. Is there anything else you'd like to chat about?
No, that's it. Thank you so much.
What are you feeling right now? What's in your head?
Not much. I feel very alive.
Yeah, I can feel the vacancy in your mind. And that vacancy is a great beginning, because in that vacancy we can start to see something else besides the dreams that appear. You are very welcome here.
Thank you.
Okay. Adi, hello.
Hello, Vishrant.
Oh, before we go, how do you say your name, Jane? Is it Jan or?
Jan.
Jan.
But Jan is good.
Yanni. Well,
Jan, yeah.
I came through the Yanni path and then found the way of the heart, and the combination of them together are like two wings on a bird. They help you fly. So Yanni, nice to say hello. Now, I've just lost someone. Who was I talking to? Addy. Hello, Addy.
Hello, Vishrant.
Hello.
During this satsang, I feel like I'm hearing you, listening to you for the first time, or even seeing you. What's happening?
Well, I've never met you before. The truth is, nobody is the same. We're always different. Every moment is a different moment. Every moment is fresh. It's just because we have memory, we think there's a continuance. There is no continuance. Every moment is brand new. Every moment is fresh. So, hello. You're just moving into reality. Every moment is fresh. Every moment is new. But because people live in their mind so much, they don't realize it.
In dying, I feel like I have to let go of my future.
Well, hang on a second. Hang on a second. You don't actually have a future. It's imagined. There is no such thing as future. It's imagination. That's all it is. People hang on to it. It's true, but it's not real. The past is just remembering, and that's not real. And the future is just a projection. That's not real. What's real is right now.
Yeah, I can see that to some extent.
And if you can move into the now, really into the now, you can be like a 1-year-old again, just playing. And it's beautiful to just play. You can go to a shopping centre and walk down the aisles and be in wonderment with all the different colours and the music and the lights and all the people. And you might have been down that aisle 100 times before, but it's brand new every time because you're living in the moment. You're living in reality instead of some dream that is plastered over everything.
This sounds great.
Oh, it's wild. And it's here. It's always here. It's just that you're dreaming.
And I have another question that I have written down.
Yep.
how do I stop trying to control?
Why would you want to stop?
Because it is very tense and it
Yeah, but you're not accepting your mind. Your mind is programmed to control. In acceptance of your mind, you just watch it and it just does what it does. Witnessing the mind allows you to raise your consciousness levels because you start to see it all. Don't try to stop controlling. It's just nature. It's natural. Just watch your mind and see what it does. Just witness it like you're watching a wild animal. Just watch it like a scientist with a little bit of doubt because it's a bullshitter.
Sorry, I'm coughing. But isn't trying to control in the way?
Ultimately it is, but trying to not control is also in the way. It's, yeah, just do nothing and just witness the mind. Just watch what it does. Watch what the tricky little devil does. I affectionately started calling my mind the bullshitter about 30 or 40 years ago when I realized what a wonderful liar it was. How it could make up a story about anything to protect itself. And what you see when you watch the mind is you start to see everything that's in the way of heart. And then you start taking those things away because heart is so beautiful and heart is everything. So you watch the mind and see what gets in the way, what contracts you, what creates resistance in you, because it's you that's doing it, but what kind of belief system is doing it? Undo the mind. And this is where Advaita Vedanta fails people. It talks about self-inquiry, and you can inquire till the cows come home and find yourself as being and then come back as ego again and again and again because you haven't undone the things that are in the way. You haven't done the work on your mind. And if these Advaita Vedanta people would just study Ramana Maharshi, he made it very clear that self-inquiry, Advaita Vedanta style, was for people who had already done the work on themselves, not for beginners, not for people in the middle, but for sadhus who had already done the work on themselves. And he stated that quite clearly, but somehow that got missed in the teaching. And so self-inquiry itself is wonderful, but unless you've actually created a mind that will support what is found, it ain't going to stay. It's going to drag awareness back to itself by contracting against life, by resisting life again. And somehow the Advaita Vedanta teachers don't teach this. And I don't understand why. Because one of the main Advaita Vedanta teachers of the last century, who died in 1950, this is what he taught. You have to do the work on yourself. You have to have done the work before self-inquiry. Anything else?
And if I see only, I tried using the hint of not watching but listening to the mind.
No, watch.
Is that
Watch. Watch. Like you're watching a wild animal. You watch. You don't judge it. You don't get involved in analysing it. You just watch it. Silently, without judgment. And what you'll see is that you're quite nuts. And that's okay. It's okay because everybody else is the same. We actually live in a really big round mental asylum. The only people who are sane on the planet are awake. And that's because they don't live in their heads still. Anything else?
By nuts, do you mean, for example, I see my mind and it's talking about something, dreaming about something that's not happening at all? Do you mean that?
Yeah, fruit bat. Anything in your mind that creates closure when some expectation's not met is in the way. So it's really an undoing, a reverse engineering, an undoing process. And that's up to you. Nobody can help you but you. I can tell you what to do, but I can't do it for you. You have to do it. Start witnessing the mind and start raising your consciousness levels. Undo everything that's in the way until there's nothing left. Like you're a newborn again, just a baby, in wonderment, in not knowing. Anything else, Addy?
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for satsang. Good to see you brave hearts here tonight.